my feel-good breakfast show.
Oh, the Heritage Day is heritaging, if I will. And I honestly love that we get to celebrate it together, beautiful Expresso family. And this morning, we know that when we talk about heritage, we talk about the fact that as South Africa, we make up so many different races, cultures, and so much in terms of being a blended pot of that. And when you put that all together, what do you get? A beautiful rainbow nation. And this is why we're able to celebrate this beautiful day together, making sure that we actually do get into the nitty-gritty of what it truly means to have unity in diversity. Now, one of the most beautiful ways to actually see this is by looking at our amazing interracial and intercultural relationships. And that is why this morning we're celebrating with the couple that I said is going to be letting us in on a few things. It is none other than Ryan Jansa van Rensburg, as well as Carmony Naika Jansa van Rensburg. And it is all about the love, but it is all about how they indeed have put together this beautiful family that is stronger within their differences and put together a beautiful relationship that shares such an incredible, unique identity in their differences coming together. Everybody, let's give them a feel-good welcome, please. Hello, beautiful couple.
Hey.
How are you guys?
Good, and you?
Amazing. Oh, guys, I'm so excited for us to have this chat because I don't think I've ever asked you guys this question. How did you guys meet?
We actually met at an interview, funnily enough, for the same position in 2010.
What?
So I arrived and there was a couch outside of the boardroom and there was Carmony sitting there. And I remember driving home that afternoon, phoning my mother, saying there was this lady from Durban who flew all the way to Johannesburg. She's definitely going to get my dream job. But then I got the job.
He got the job. He got the job.
But you got the girl as well. You got the guy, and that's what matters.
Carmony was so good that they hired her at a different department.
Yeah.
And then day one, because we didn't know anybody else at the workplace, we kind of just then clicked. And then from colleagues, became friends, became lovers, I guess.
Oh, and here we are today, celebrating so much.
Yeah.
And guys, I have to ask you, I mean, from the word go, you already know that you're from different backgrounds, right? But then, of course, there are those differences that come up when you get to know each other. Were those ever a consideration in the beginning of your relationship?
I can clearly remember the day when Ryan asked, and I remember thinking to myself, like, I wonder what our parents would think.
Yes.
And then, but we told them, and they were perfectly fine and perfectly happy with it. So we were very lucky, I think. We're very lucky.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So nobody had any sort of like reservations?
I'm not going to say nobody. I mean, we had cousins who didn't attend our wedding. And I think it's at points like these where, you know, like we're getting there as a society where we are this happy rainbow nation.
Yeah.
But once you're in a blended relationship, that's when you start to pick up, you know, that your cousin who was your happy cousin and your friendly cousin, deep down might not be the cousin you always thought they were. So people, I mean, I had a cousin who declined our wedding invitation a year ahead of time, saying she'd be working on that day. So you pick up these little nuances, you know.
Strange behavior.
Yeah, and it is very strange because, like you said, we are like the Rainbow Nation. You'd hope and you'd think by now that those things wouldn't be something you'd have to think about, but it genuinely is. But I just love that your guys' love is all that matters, and that's what we always look at, right? But this is why I then have to ask you, particularly with us celebrating Heritage Day, you guys come from different backgrounds, like I said. I want to ask you each individually, what do you consider to be your heritage? We can start with you, Ryan.
Hey, I'm South African.
No DNA, just RSA.
Exactly.
I love that. And what about you, my Carmony?
Okay, so for me, no, definitely. Like, I don't even... Okay, so, like, Indian culture, like, from India is very exciting for me, even. But definitely, I feel like I am South African.
Yeah.
And South African Indians are totally different as well to like your original, authentic Indians. 100%. So the culture is just totally different. And I feel like I grew up with a whole mix of people. So for me, that's who I am. I'm a mix of all these different beautiful cultures you find in South Africa.
The village, if you will. Yes, I love
I love
that.
my culture, but I love the South African culture too.
100%. And with you even saying that, you know, there's the differences from like, you know, original India and the Indian culture that's here in South Africa. I mean, I can even imagine how there's a difference from the Xhosas who are in the Eastern Cape to the ones that grew up in Johannesburg. So I can just imagine on continental vibes, you know. But guys, I have to ask you very quickly, because your wedding was absolutely beautiful. How did you guys blend your cultures together to make it one?
So, yeah.
Go for it.
For me, I love like my culture. I'm not like religious or anything, but I feel like for me it's really important just to like represent it, to celebrate it, to feel that.
Yes.
So I definitely wanted to include that. Also because my parents like I wanted to show them, like I do have an interest in my culture. So that's for me. I wanted to incorporate that.
Yeah.
And even with our wedding, I mean, this is once again where, as I've mentioned, my cousin, there's a pastor that we went and asked to marry us, and he was also very opposed to this.
Who is that pastor? Give me his name. I will get him. And Expresso family, we're going to talk more about this in a little bit because these two are not going anywhere, okay? We're going to have a beautiful conversation still all about celebrating this way in which, as South Africa, we get to come together with our different cultures and particularly in a relationship on Relationship Tuesdays. Right about now, though, I need to check in on my beautiful Cape Town family. Graham and Carissa, what's going on, babies?
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Ah, man, it's already been such a beautiful Heritage Day together, and we continue it right here on your Feel Good Breakfast Show, all in the name of finding out about how our cultures come together, particularly in a relationship. This is why we're joined by Ryan and Carmony, my beautiful couple. I'm so glad I'm still with you guys because I have a lot more questions to ask about your intercultural relationship. And I'm going to start with that exactly, your cultures. What are the different things that you believe you've sort of adopted from each other when it comes to the ways in which you've brought your cultures together?
Okay, I think Ryan can answer that.
Yeah.
And I think there's a fine line between culture and religion. So
Okay.
like something like Christmas, for instance, yes, it's a religious thing, but it's something that we all partake in.
Yes.
And that's what's been really fun from my perspective. I mean, like Carmony's family have been celebrating Christmas and Easter and those things. But for me, taking part in things like Diwali or Lakshmi prayers where we tie the red string, those cultural things have been really fun for me to experience. And then that also what I feel brings the family closer together.
I love that. And I can imagine so, because it's also something that when it comes to culture, it's a bond that you almost that brings the family together, like you say. But then I also want to know, in terms of like it changing your views of just like life and just the ways in which you see South Africa and everything, how has that happened with you guys bringing yourselves together?
It's interesting. Yeah, I think it's interesting to see, to be honest, like when you marry, especially someone who's a different culture.
Yes.
You realize, okay, things maybe are discussed differently or celebrated differently. So I don't know, for me, I feel like that is different, like with the cultures.
In terms of just like, I want to say accommodating everybody.
Okay, for example, like birthdays.
Yes.
I feel like it's more exciting for Ryan's family. Like it's super exciting. Like for me it is, for our family it is, but it's
like
not
you're
like this
born.
major
Exactly.
thing. Yeah. So for me that's been totally different.
Yes. And I also want to get into a little bit of, for example, the attire or even, the ways in which you learn about your ancestors and things like that. How has that sort of been for you guys as a couple that's not just, being yourselves, but also now raising a daughter? How are the ways in which you've incorporated that into your relationship? I love this. You two are so cute.
You go first.
Well, in our culture, I mean, there's just like suits. The clothing is really boring, to be honest.
But have you, adopted any of the attire
Yes,
from the other side?
It's been really fun. I mean, now if we go to weddings or things like that, it's really fun to put on a kurta or a traditional outfit. And people are like, oh my word, you look so nice. And I feel like the outfits are a lot more comfortable.
And I think for my daughter, Surya, she wasn't normally interested in Indian attire, but now that she's growing up, I think she's becoming her own person. And I think for her, it's really exciting. So for Heritage Day celebration at school, she wore the traditional outfit, and it was so cool and exciting for her.
It was a moment.
Yes, yeah.
That's so
It was like the first time, and it was very, very nice for her.
Yeah.
And I think we're almost getting to experience our cultures through our daughter.
Oh,
Because,
wow.
True.
Like,
That's
yes,
true.
we've got our cultures and we've got our things that we celebrate, but now that we're raising somebody and actively having to teach them these things, that's where we're getting to then.
Because we get questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was going
About
to ask
it.
you about that as well.
Yeah.
In terms of her, do you guys wait for her to ask the questions? Or do you pretty much just kind of give her the information or be like, here's this to wear or what it may be?
Yeah, I think so. And I think children, school will teach them things.
Yes,
eh?
we used to avoid it because we don't want to bring that to her attention. But then now we sort of had to.
Because I think as much as we were born free or all these things, race was still very much prevalent in our upbringing. So in our household, race, we would never ever mention race or religion or culture. We wanted her to experience it all for herself.
Yes.
Things like religion especially, and then decide what are the things that she wants to take from that.
Wow.
But then she'd come back from school and say, oh, I'm this or I'm that.
She asked. Yeah, she asked. the
Yeah.
question. You
I
can't
love
stop
that.
the question.
A smart baby girl. We appreciate that. And I also then want to ask you, because of course we know you guys come from different cultures, how do you then celebrate something like Heritage Day? Well, what is it that, you know, you guys incorporate rather in terms of celebrating that day?
Making biryani on the braai.
Oh, yes! Come over, please.
And it's all about the South African heritage.
Yeah.
Really, it is.
Beautiful. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. I think you've given us such a beautiful view, because it's one thing to sort of, you know, what I might think, but to actually hear it from you, I think that's so much better, and particularly to get your view. So thank you so much, and happy Heritage Day.
Heritage
Thank you.
Day.
Happy
Thank
Heritage
you.
Day.
Oh, my word. This has been so much fun, because I feel like, you know what, with Relationship Tuesday, being able to incorporate this beautiful part of us, which is us having so much diversity in our country, but having that unity, that's what it's about, and being able to have that conversation as a family as well, Expresso fam. Right about now, though, I do know that Graham is standing by in Cape Teasy. Graham, what's going on, my love?